The world had ended long ago, leaving behind nothing but ruins and the shambling dead. In the decades since humanity's fall, the land had become a wasteland, a sprawling graveyard where survival was measured in moments. The man sat in the back of the truck, his body jostling with every bump and rut in the road. He couldn't remember how long he'd been unconscious, but the throbbing in his head and the dried blood caked on his temple told him it had been too long. He had been found out there, beyond the ruins, beyond hope, by a scavenger crew from the wall. He was barely conscious when they dragged him into the truck, mumbling about safety, about a place where people still lived. Now, as the vehicle rumbled to a stop, he forced his eyes open, squinting against the pale gray light that filtered through the broken clouds. A large, jagged structure loomed ahead, casting long shadows across the barren landscape. The wall, a towering fortress of rusted shipping containers, welded together in a haphazard attempt to keep the world out. The man stared at it, his mind struggling to process where he was, what this place could possibly mean. The truck's engine died, and the heavy metallic clank of the doors opening echoed around him. Rough hands pulled him out of the vehicle, his legs almost giving way beneath him as his feet touched the ground. He was weak, disoriented, but something deep within him told him to keep moving. There was no safety outside the walls. Two guards stood watch on either side, their faces obscured by masks and tattered hoods, rifles slung across their backs. The figure in front of him was different. Tall and broad-shouldered, with a face that, at first glance, appeared to be grinning from ear to ear. But as the man drew closer, he realized with a sickening jolt that the smile wasn't natural. The skin around the man's mouth had been cruelly carved into a permanent, grotesque grin. "Welcome to the wall," the man said, his voice muffled but carrying an unsettling cheerfulness. "I'm Sunny Smiles, and I'll be making sure you're not bringing anything unwelcome into our little sanctuary." Sunny Smiles tilted his head, studying the newcomer with a gaze that was too intense, too knowing. He gestured for the guards to take their positions and began the thorough, invasive process of checking for infection. The man endured the poking and prodding in silence, flinching only when a needle was jabbed into his arm to draw blood. When it was over, Sunny Smiles stood back, his too-wide grin never faltering. "You're clear." "Lucky you," he said with a chuckle that sounded more like a wheeze. "Most don't make it this far without a few bites, but you're clean." The man nodded, his throat too dry to speak. He had nothing left to offer except his weariness and the faint hope that he might survive another day. Sunny Smiles reached into the folds of his coat and pulled out a crumpled piece of paper, yellowed with age and stained with what looked suspiciously like blood. He handed it to the man with a flourish, as though he were presenting a gift. "Take this," Sunny Smiles said, his tone suddenly serious. "These are the rules. You follow them, and you might just live long enough to regret it." The man unfolded the paper with trembling hands. The ink was smudged in places, but the words were legible enough. There, scrawled in uneven handwriting, were the 20 rules that would determine whether he lived or died in this forsaken world. Rules to survive the zombie apocalypse. Rule 1. Don't get bitten. The moment their teeth break your skin, it's over. Infection spreads faster than you can react, turning you into one of them within minutes. There is no cure, no second chances, only death or damnation. Rule 2. Do not trust the quiet. If the wasteland falls silent, so should you. The stillness means a whisperer is near, a zombie that moves silently, stalking its prey before it strikes. It's learned to hunt with patience, and it will wait for you to make the first mistake. Rule 3. Never be alone after sundown. When darkness falls, the Night Stalkers emerge. These zombies are faster, stronger, and nearly impossible to see in the shadows. If you're caught alone, you won't last until morning. Rule 4. Keep an eye on the sky. The ravenous are unlike anything you've seen. They look like carrion birds from a distance, but once they spot you, they swoop down with a hunger that can strip a man to the bone in seconds. Stay under cover or risk being their next meal. Rule 5. Water is sacred. Always test your water before drinking. Some of the dead have been seen near the rivers, their fluids seeping into the water supply. Drinking contaminated water leads to a slow, agonizing death as the infection takes root inside you. Rule 6. Burn the dead. When one of us falls, burn the body immediately. The revenants are those who weren't burned. They come back stronger, more vicious, and driven by a singular purpose: to destroy those they once knew. Rule 7. Don't light fires after midnight. Fire can be your ally, but after midnight, it draws the attention of the smoldering, zombies that retain a burning hatred even in death. They are drawn to flames, their rage fueling their endless pursuit. Rule 8. Never remove your mask. The air near the blight zones is toxic, filled with spores that can turn you into a spore shroud. These are zombies whose bodies have been overtaken by fungal growths, spreading their infection with every breath. Your mask is the only thing standing between you and them. Rule 9. Beware of the scavengers. Not all threats are undead. Scavengers are people who've lost their minds, more feral than the zombies, and far more dangerous. They've adapted to the wasteland, and they see you as just another resource to exploit. Rule 10. Listen to the whispers. Sometimes you'll hear whispers carried by the wind. They aren't in your head. They belong to the echoes, zombies who retain fragments of memory and speech. They lure the living with familiar voices, only to strike when you least expect it. Rule 11. Keep a bullet for yourself. If you ever find yourself cornered, with no escape, remember this: one bullet can spare you from becoming one of them. It's the last act of defiance against the inevitable. Rule 12. The wall is sacred. Never leave the safety of the wall unless absolutely necessary. The wall is our only defense against the hordes. Beyond it lies death. And the wall is what separates the living from the damned. Rule 13. Trust no one outside the wall. If someone from the wasteland approaches, assume they're compromised. Even if they seem normal, they might be leading the zombies to you, willingly or otherwise. Rule 14. Don't eat anything you didn't hunt. Food from the wasteland can be tainted. Even seemingly fresh meat can carry the infection, twisting you into something monstrous. If you didn't hunt it yourself, it's not safe. Rule 15. Always have an exit. Wherever you are, always have a way out. The zombies are relentless, and when they swarm, your only hope is to escape, fast and without hesitation. Rule 16. Stay away from the children. They might look innocent, but the creepers are anything but. These small, fast zombies retain a child's cunning and curiosity. They hunt in packs, and they understand pain better than the adults, using it to trap their prey. Rule 17. Mark your path. Always mark where you've been, especially in unfamiliar territory. If you get lost, you're as good as dead. The dead don't forget, but your mind will deceive you. Rule 18. Silence is a weapon. The dead hunt by sound. Move quietly, speak only in whispers, and never, ever scream, no matter what you see or feel. The moment you make noise, the howlers will come, and they'll bring the horde with them. Rule 19. Respect the elders. The ones who've survived the longest know things. They've seen horrors you can't imagine, and their advice, however cryptic, can be the difference between life and death. Rule 20. There are no second chances. Out here, one mistake is all it takes. Break a rule, and you won't live long enough to regret it. Follow these rules, and you might just see another sunrise. The man stared at the list, the weight of each rule pressing down on him like the cold, oppressive air around the wall. He felt a shiver run down his spine as he realized these weren't just guidelines. They were the only thing standing between him and an unspeakable fate. Sunny smiles clapped him on the shoulder, the carved grin on his face never wavering. "Welcome to the wall," Sunny said with a hollow laugh. "Hope you're good at following instructions."